Each of us has thought at least for a moment about the meaning of life. But what would you do if you were in a situation where the fate of mankind depended on your choice? This movie helps to go beyond the usual, and together with the characters to conduct an experiment with a deep philosophical meaning. Watch this video to the end, as I did not expect such a denouement of the movie. This is Mr. Narrator. Enjoy the movie. Early in the morning, the couple kisses in bed. They had a good time at night and the girl hurries home. Petra asks the guy not to fall asleep, but he closes his eyes and the next moment the clock shows about 9 in the morning. JC quickly packs up and hurries to the university. In front of his nose, the teacher closes the door, but the guy manages to slip a book into the gap. The man reminds the student about punctuality, quoting Shakespeare, but still lets the student into the classroom. Eric Zimmy continues the lecture. He has taught the guys everything he knows himself, and they have their own reasoning ahead of them. One of the students suggests that the instructor is a slave to binary logic, and they start discussing what logic is in general. The instructor speculates about philosophy in people's real lives. He reminds the students that they are among the best minds of mankind. The group begins to recall their best thought experiments. One guy talks about an experiment with a monkey who, in an infinite universe, could type Hamlet. The other recalls a wagon task where one person's life must be sacrificed to save the many. The students argue about the ethics of this, because in both cases not everyone survives. Then one of the students talks about the paradox. When a person is on the verge of going to another world, 3 of their best friends are afraid to help and fail to act. The person survives but can no longer trust these people. Wasn't it better to remain in ignorance and be friends with them for life? But there will be new friends and new towers. Therein lies the paradox. Mr. Zimmet sees that his students are well prepared and decides to conduct one last mental experiment with them. The man suggests the graduates to imagine a global cataclysm at the end of which they will survive. The guys actively engage in the question and begin to develop the theme of the apocalypse. Eric suggests to dwell on the variant with an atomic catastrophe. In their imagination, the group is transported to an open area where a radioactive cloud is moving towards it. The teacher suggests taking shelter in a reinforced concrete bunker. The boys go inside and look around. When they enter a bedroom, they discover a problem. The bunker is designed for 10 people. The students offer to sleep 2 to a bed, but the teacher explains that they will not have enough air in the room. Only 10 people can be kept alive. One extra person in the room will cause the others to die of hypoxia. Mr. Zimmet suggests that the students determine who is worthy of surviving in order to revive the human race. The student refused to participate in the experiment because of the science that was invented by tipsy men in the mid-20th century. The instructor explained that the experiment was not genetic in nature, but aimed at trying to think with reason despite the conditions. The second girl also wanted to refuse to participate, but the man offered her a choice: the highest grade or a C on her boyfriend's transcript. Resorting to blackmail, he leaves all the students as part of the experiment. The professor distributes cards with professions on the basis of which they will have to make a choice. The students introduce themselves, and when it comes to the poet, Mr. Zimmet takes the guy out. The guys are surprised, but Eric explains that such an act is more humane than suffering from a radiation cloud. They don't have time to decide who deserves a place in the bunker. Everyone has to think for themselves. Their professions are on the cards, otherwise they are ordinary people. A man asks JC to name his best quality. The boy says it is pacifism, so in the experiment he will also be a pacifist. The students ask what is the role of the instructor in the experiment. Eric replies that he is a dark horse. They will have to decide whether to take him into the bunker, as the man may have knowledge without which the group cannot survive. The guys begin to prove the importance of their profession to the rest of the group and vote. Having eliminated the useless professions, the students leave Mr. Zimmet among those who are going to the bunker. During recess, JC thanks Petra for saving him from a C in philosophy. Suddenly there are loud noises and the couple runs to where everything happened. Mr. Zimmet decided to remove everyone they had screened out of the experiment, reasoning that people didn't want to suffer from radiation. The guys do not like this situation. They no longer want to take the professor with them to the bunker. Secretly, they make their way into the shelter and close the doors right in front of the professor. The guys explore the bunker again and find an artificial garden, as well as other things to relieve depression and places for couples to warm up. While everyone is asleep, Jesse and his girlfriend move into action, actively celebrating their rescue. When the guy falls asleep, Petra goes to the entrance and sees a note from the professor. Eric knows the code to open the doors. Gathering their friends, they begin to discuss whether they need the code, but leave it at that. The students have 364 days to find out if they did the right thing by not letting Mr. Zimet in. The boys go about their daily routines and get to know each other better, checking in periodically to see what's going on outside. When a year passed and the group decided to leave the bunker, the system demanded an exit code. The students tried every possible option to open the doors. It was all in vain. By giving in to their emotions, the men condemned themselves to death. After sharing their last meal, the students were exhausted and one of them could not bear the mental strain. This served them food for a few more days. However, not all were able to endure such a thing, fearing the end from the radiation. Some asked for help. Others waited until the shelter ran out of air. The next scene in the classroom shows the children's reasoning about the situation. The teacher explained to them Einstein's probability theory, and that they made a mistake in this situation, because they did not know that the professor was the creator of the bunker. Mr. Zimet offered to do another experiment, but the conditions worsened. This time the group was in the desert, the apocalypse, and the bunker remained unchanged. Additional information was added to the occupation cards, and the condition required the students to get to know each other better and to move quickly to action to see the results. Each student had advantages and disadvantages. The farmer was committed to same-sex relationships, the doctor could be infected with Ebola, and the carpenter seed was empty. The group took a vote. When the question went to the poet, the professor crossed him out again, saying it was a place for the asylum creator. The storm was approaching, and part of the group that was eliminated hurried to the cars in hopes of surviving. The rest ran to the bunker. At night, Petra was walking around the building and saw her boyfriend doing it with Jack. The guys were actively warming each other in one of the rooms. After discussing what had happened, the guys decided to split into pairs to also start getting to know each other intimately and spend time actively. The students had doubts whether Jesse or Jack could become a partner for one of the women because of their preferences. After all, the guys liked to spend time together. The obstetrician was helping the guys pick a couple. Petra had to spend a hot night with Mr. Zimet to keep warm. JC didn't like the idea, however, there was nothing he could do. The couples secluded themselves in separate rooms and began to fulfill their purpose. Weeks passed, but the result of close acquaintance did not appear in any of the women. The professor suggested to change the conditions, to include all men in the program without exception, and to swap partners to increase the chances of getting to know more partners. One of the girls was against it because for survival, they are guided by logic, which is no guarantee of moral principles. Mr. Zimet kicked everyone out of the room except this girl. Eric wanted to take the rebellious girl outside the shelter because the students' reasoning could lead the group to ruin. Weak people are suggestible, especially to bad ideas. However, the student interfered with the man and a fight ensued. Defending himself, the boy injured the teacher's ear. Staggering, Mr. Zimet walked to the entrance of the bunker, opened the doors, and the whole group was out of the game. The students came back to reality, one of them offering to play again. But JC wanted to know why the professor coughed when he dealt the cards. Eric explained it was because he had taken a pill before class. However, the student didn't believe him, grabbed the box and discovered the hiding places in it. The guy assumed that the man purposely put the card to him to exclude him from the experiment. Then the professor asked him about Plato's allegory of the cave, and the student told the story of how the philosopher mistook for reality what turned out to be an illusion. JC reminded the professor of that man who believed in illusions. The student asked for another round and the group supported him. The guys were transported to a new location on the island. The instructor went to check the bunker. As before, he took some defense gear with him from the arsenal and hid something in the room before rushing for the exit. Mr. Zimet was sitting on the shore and Petra came over to him, hugged the man and promised to change things this time. She also said that Eric would not like the girl's actions. When the group gathered, the student offered herself as a judge to objectively select the survivors. She scrutinized everyone gathered. Petra chose those they had weeded out in past times, justifying each of her choices. The professor considered her decision a failure and wanted to prevent the experiment from being realized. The girl handed him what the man was looking for, and JC demonstrated what he had stashed in the room. Mr. Zimet left. There was one last spot left. Petra didn't want her friends to sacrifice themselves for her, but on the sly, Chips locked her in the bunker with the chosen ones. The second part of the group left by boat to seek refuge. The guys settled in the bunker. They had fun playing cards, drinking wine, actively warming each other up, singing, dancing, and laughing a lot. Petra and JC secluded themselves in the shower, soaping up and confessing their love to each other. They revived the art using what they had in the bunker and prayed for their friends. When they came out a year later, the Earth was intact. And as it turned out, some of the girls had gotten pregnant after being active. One of the students concluded that the professor had made a mistake. Then Eric developed a most unpleasant scenario, as a result of which the boys could not return and stayed forever on that island. Petra objected, saying that they had succeeded because it was their path and their choice. They would decide for themselves when the end came. Suddenly, a professor appeared on the island. He was able to survive because there was no radiation during the cataclysmic event and wanted to cut James out of the game. But each of the friends stood up for the guy. Taking hands, they pressed the red button. The guys wondered what happened to Chips, who took the rest of the group away to seek refuge. The guy said he was the one lucky guy who was able to have fun every day with a new girl. The guys in his group got lost on the way to the safe island. Chips was a carpenter and built a bungalow for each of the 6 girls. Once a week, the guy visited each one, and on the 7th day, he rested. It was an individual student's mental experiment to see if the girls would make an effort to have an autistic time. The guys were amused by the guy's experiment and thanked him for the interesting experience. The teacher told them to put down their textbooks and let the group go, but Petra didn't leave. She closed the door and went out on the veranda to talk to Eric. The man said that Jace was stupid and not suitable for a girl. The professor used to spend a lot of active time with the girl, and now he was jealous of his beloved. Petra, on the other hand, loved JC. At parting, she kissed Mr. Zimmet, and he told her the meaning of the word apocalypse and promised to learn how to say compliment. The students dispersed, and the man was left alone, dreaming that he would still meet Petra again. This is a 2013 movie called Philosophers: Lessons in Survival. Write in the comments who would have a place in your bunker and who would be excluded. See you in the next stories.